Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Suburbia. This is sent to me by Bezier Games and is designed by Ted Alspak. Plan, build, and develop a small town into a major metropolis. Use building tiles to add residential, commercial, civic, and industrial areas, as well as special points of interest that provide benefits and take advantage of the resources of nearby boroughs. Your goal is to have your borough thrive and end up with a greater population than any of your opponents. Let me show you how to play. So in Suburbia, you're trying to develop your town into a metropolis. You do so by building tiles and expanding your neighborhood. So up here you've got stacks of tiles. Here you've got the market right here. Here you have heavy factories, community parks, and suburbs. Here you have the goals of the specific game. These are randomly determined at the start. And here you have the money pile. Here's the population board. These are essentially victory points. The more population you get, the better. And this is your borough board. The top row indicates your income and the bottom row indicates your reputation. Here you've got some city tiles here. Right now you start with suburbs, community park, and heavy factory. At the beginning of the game, you are randomly given two different goals. You can choose one and give the other one back. These stay hidden throughout the game. Each player gets $15 million to start, and then you begin. On your turn, you perform the following 4 actions in order. Action 1, take and place one tile or place one investment marker in your borough. 2, collect or pay money based on your income. 3, adjust population on the population board based on your reputation. And 4, add a new tile to the real estate market. So, at the beginning of your turn, you can either take one tile and add it to your borough, or place an investment marker, which are these, on a tile in your borough to invest in that tile. So when you take a tile from the real estate market, you have to pay the cost that's on the tile and add the cost that's above it in the market. So if I wanted to buy the municipal airport, on the tile it's $6, or actually $6 million, plus $6 million because it's in this position on the market, so it would be $12 million. This one would be $9 million on the tile, plus $2 million above it, so $11 million. Whichever tile you purchase, you pay the money, and then you add it immediately to your borough to an adjacent tile. So let's say I bought the landfill. I would have to place it immediately next to an adjacent tile. The effects of the tile immediately happen. So I get a +2 income boost for this tile, but I do get a -1 for each adjacent gray tile and green tile. However, this gives me a +1 reputation for each adjacent yellow tile, so I would only go down 1 reputation. So as you can see, these effects happen immediately, and so tiles can often influence other tiles and make things happen. Your reputation can go up and down, your income can go up and down. You can never go above 15 for either, or below -5 for either income or reputation. Now, if you didn't want anything in the market, you can pick one of these basic tiles. You got the heavy factories. These are 3 million. They give you a +1 income, but -1 reputation for each adjacent gray and green tile. Suburbs are just a simple +2 population. And community parks are a -1 income, but a +1 reputation for each adjacent yellow, green, or blue tile. If any of those run out, then they can no longer be acquired. If you place a basic tile, then you have to pay the cost of one of these tiles in the market, 4 million, 2 million, or free, or so on. Take that tile and discard it into a discard pile. You also have the option to take a tile as a lake. So in that case, you would only need to pay the cost on the real estate market, not on the tile. So for this one, let's say the fancy restaurant, if I want to make this a lake, I wouldn't pay anything, and I would flip it over, and now it's a lake tile. The lake tile says it's 2 million for each adjacent yellow, gray, green, or blue tile. So if I put it here, I would immediately get 4 million. And if other tiles are added to this, I would get 2 million for each one. So it's not just that you get the effect when you place it. Subsequent tiles that are placed adjacent to tiles can still trigger their effects. Now, if you don't want to place a tile, you can place an investment marker. You would place that on any tile of your choice over the cost, and it would double the effects of that tile. So immediately for community park, I would get +1 more reputation for each adjacent yellow, green, or blue tile, and lose -1 income. And this investment marker is in place for the rest of the game. So for any other yellow, green, or blue tile I place adjacent to the community park, I would get 2 reputation instead of 1. If you place an investment marker, the same thing as a lake, you choose one of these tiles, pay the cost of the market, not the cost of the tile, and discard it from the game. That way the market continues to be filled with new tiles. So to demonstrate again how these tiles work, if let's say I put this landfill here, I would get a 2 income boost, so I would move this up. But because this is a -1 reputation for each adjacent gray, yellow, green, and blue, I would have to take my reputation down. It would be into the negatives. It's like a series of gears in a clockwork machine that are constantly, if you add new stuff, it just layers on more and more changes to the income and reputation. Now, after you've placed your tile or investment marker, you collect or pay income based on your income. So, if your income is in the positives, you would receive money from the supply. In this case, we would receive 2 million. If you are in the negative income, you would have to pay that amount of money to the bank instead. If you don't have enough money, you have to pay what you have and then move your population square, which is over here, backwards 1 space per $1 million to cover the difference. Now, your population can never be below 0, so if it's ever pushed to that point, you're fine. But obviously you want more population because that's how you win the game. So let's say I had a community park here. My income would go down 1 million, but because for each yellow tile next to it, I would get a +1 boost. And so my reputation would actually be in the positive. So like the income phase, with population, if you have a positive population total, you could increase your population by your reputation. So if my reputation is 1, I would get 1 added to my population. But if my reputation was in the negatives, I would have to move my population down per my reputation. Now, these red lines here represent how difficult it is to maintain your town. Every time your population increases past one of these, both your income and your reputation immediately are reduced by 1. Now, if your population ever goes back past the line, you regain that income and reputation. And that can happen depending on your reputation total. And sometimes when you place a tile, there are multiple adjustments you have to make. So if you have to adjust your population past the red line, you immediately decrease your income and reputation right away, even if you haven't finished the other adjustments yet. Once you've placed your tile and determined your income and population changes, you then slide all the remaining tiles 1 over and add a new tile to the market. Because you have to remove a tile to place lakes or do investment markers, there will always be a tile that has to be replaced. As you progress through the game, you'll go through A stack and B stack, and eventually in C stack, you will find the 1 more round marker. As soon as this tile is flipped over, that current round is completed, and then 1 more full round of players is played, starting with the start player, and then that way everyone has the same number of turns in the game. After the last person finishes your turn, final scoring takes place. There are 2 parts to that. Goals, which I showed you before, you have hidden goals, as well as converting your money to population. So this goal is the miser goal. If you have the lowest income out of all the players, you get a 15 population boost. Note that at the end of the game, when you boost your population by goals, the red lines no longer affect you. And then these goals are also counted as well. Whoever has the most airports in this game would have gotten 10 population, and whoever had the lowest reputation with the miscreant goal would get a 28 population boost. So those goals are public, but your hidden goals can also have a significant effect. Then you count how much money you have at the end. For every 5 million you have, you get 1 population to your boost. And then at the end of the game, whoever has the highest population is the winner. And that's pretty much the game. You're taking tiles, you're trying to find the best tiles that affect your city in the best ways. And as you can see, a lot of the tiles have very different effects. Like office building here, it's a +1 income, and you get a +1 income for each adjacent blue tile. So if you have a lot of blue tiles, that's a potential for a lot of money. So this, if you have a lot of office tiles, as you can see, some of the tiles have little symbols here, like airport, or restaurant, or so on. So if you had a lot of these office tiles, you get a lot of bonuses for that. And for every subsequent office tile you place, you would also get the +1 income immediately. So a lot of different tiles, a lot of ways to plan your strategy depending on what kind of city you want to make, and that's the game. I really enjoyed Ted Alspach's game Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which I reviewed in a previous episode. This game has a very similar feel in some ways, which is a good thing because I really liked that game. I like that constructing your borough feels like it's like this, your own little intricate clockwork puzzle with all sorts of things to keep track of. Like if I place this here, that affects this tile, and this tile will get this bonus, and that tile will get that bonus. I enjoy the idea of your population growing bigger, and as it grows bigger, it's more expensive. Like with the red lines, you have to spend more money, and it's harder to maintain with reputation. The tiles work together in very interesting ways. There are some really cool combos you can get going if you focus on the right path for what your city wants to look like. I love games with hidden goals and overall goals, so that way every game you play is totally different. Like this one, I have a goal where I have to have the lowest income, so I have to kind of like play in a way where I'm trying to, you know, not make too much money, or at least by the end of the game, not have less money than everybody else. It's cool because you can decide, I'm going to go for this goal, but not that goal, or I think I can go for all 3 goals. There's a lot of variety when you have that many different goals and interchangeable things and variables per game. I also really like getting rid of tiles you think your opponents might want. Like, this is a thinky game, but it's kind of a mean game too, because every action you take, whether it's buying a tile or placing a lake or doing an investment, no matter what, you're going to get rid of a tile, and you can go, oh, I see that player 2 really is trying to get a lot of yellow tiles. Well, too bad, sucker. It's a very thinky game, though, and it's one you can easily mess up if you're not paying attention to your placement of tiles or your opponent's tiles, because it's sometimes you're like too focused on your own city, you start not realizing, oh, player 2 over there is stacking in tons of bonuses. You have to pay attention to everything that's going on. And there might be some moments where maybe there's a little bit too much to keep track of, because as your city expands and expands and expands, there's so many little, like, oh, if I place this here, this tile, this tile, and this tile, you know, trigger. It's a lot of interesting little tricky things. But I think that's part of the challenge and the fun. I enjoy games like that. If you think that sounds too complicated or like too much to process, maybe this game's not for you, but I personally love that kind of game. I love making my suburb as efficiently as possible and watching these little gears turn and, oh, get this generates more income and this generates more reputation. I love that stuff. So I think this game is great. Just like Castles of Bad King Ludwig, I'm a big fan of this game as well. This game, in a sense, is almost like a purer version, in that it's just tiles instead of like long castle pieces and trying to fit like in an artistic sense. This one is very like, this goes here, bam, bam, bonuses, click, click, click. It appeals to me, so I would recommend it. I enjoyed this a lot. It's very good, very thinky.